Hey guys! Welcome back to the He's So Good podcast. My name's Miranda.
And I'm Hannah. Today we're going to be talking about not looking back and just walking with the Lord and not looking back to what He's brought us out of. Kind of like the story of Lot's wife when she looked back at Sodom and Gomorrah and was punished for it. But learning how to stay with the Lord and not look back and not be tempted to fall back into the temptations that the Lord has taught us to resist.
Yeah, and before we get into that, actually, since this is our first episode, we just want to talk about a bit what to expect from this podcast, why we started it, who are we a little bit. So basically how this kind of all started is me and Hannah, we're best friends in university, and we love the Lord, and we just like to talk about the Lord, and it always happens, when it's 2-3 a.m. As much as I don't like to admit that, but I feel like we kind of just get into those deep conversations, and we just kind of felt really inspired to share that with other people. And I mean, if it reaches 3 people, awesome. If it reaches more, awesome. But we just kind of, we talk a lot about kind of convictions we get and how the Lord touches our lives, and we just wanted to share that with other people, and maybe other people are going through the same things and can feel inspired by this.
Exactly. And we still make mistakes, we're still tempted by things, and obviously we're not perfect, but
course, yeah.
We have just learned so much, and the Lord's been teaching us so much, and so we want to be able to share those kind of deep conversations that we have with you guys.
Yeah, and if we can just encourage people and share a bit of positivity, and yeah, like Hannah said, we're not perfect, none of us are, and so how can we go together through this broken world, and just kind of try and be more like Jesus. So That being said, today we're gonna be talking about Lot's wife and what she did and how we can kind of learn from her. And so the first passage we're gonna look at is in Genesis 19, verses 12 to 26. So we're just gonna read that, and then we're gonna talk a bit about that. So do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Then the men said to Lot, "Have you anyone else here? Sons-in-law, sons, daughters, or anyone else you have in the city? Bring them out of the place. For we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against this people has become great before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and said to his sons-in-law, who were to marry his daughters, "Up, get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city." But he seemed to his sons-in-law to be jesting. As morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be swept away in the punishment of the city." But he lingered, so the men seized him and his wife and his 2 daughters by the hand, the Lord being merciful to him, and brought him out of the city and set him outside the city. And as they brought him out, one said, "Escape for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the hills, lest you be swept away." And Lot said to them, "Oh no, my lords, behold, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have shown me great kindness in saving my life. But I cannot escape to the hills, lest the disaster overtake me and I die. Behold, the city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Let me escape there. It is not a little one. Is it not a little one? And my life will be saved?" He said to him, "Behold, I grant you this favor also, that I will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Escape there quickly, for I can do nothing till you arrive there." Therefore, the name of the city was called Zoar, which means little. The sun had risen on the earth when Lot came to Zoar. Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the valley, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt.
Yeah, that is quite a passage right there.
Yeah.
A couple of things that I just want to hit on immediately that kind of really touched me, and kind of how I've seen God work in my life too, is number one, it's saying he sent them an angel, and the angel is talking to them get up, get out. And so I think a lot of times in our life we can kind of feel a calling. We can feel that God is telling us go somewhere, or get out of this place, or stop doing this, or do this, or we just feel these different convictions. And sometimes we can kind of, Lot here, we can kind of be oh, I don't know, should I go? And we kind of have this feeling that we just kind of stay in our old ways, stay where we are because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a little bit hard to get out of our comfort zones. And so that's something really insightful that I thought originally of this passage.
Yeah, even when I was saying, as you said, he was hesitating, and then the angels were "No, you gotta go." So they literally had to, grab them and pull them out. So I was thinking about how it's, sometimes when we're being pulled out of a temptation or out of, something, it's not easy, and it feels sometimes maybe God's being a little rough with us, but it's like for our good. And it's like, oh, you're being pulled out of this situation, but it's like for your good. But it's like, it sounds rough because, you know, they're like, oh, great, you gotta go. But, you know, it's for our good.
Yeah, and then can I just see this?
Yeah.
There's something else. I want to see exactly what verse it was. Oh, yeah, verse 19, when Job says, but I cannot escape to the hills lest the disaster overtake me and I die. I think that's another component of sometimes when we're trying to trust the Lord, it can seem like too much. It can seem like, God, like this looks almost impossible. Like, if I flee right now, I'm going to die. Like, this is what Lot is saying. In our own lives, I think I've seen that where God's calling us to, like, do something and we feel unworthy. We feel like it's dangerous. We feel like I can't do this. Like, why me? You know? And so that's one thing that's interesting. And I love how God will always equip you, like, where you need to go. I mean, even with Lot, like, he's calling him to do this thing, but he's sending him angels, he's confirming his word. And even today, I would say we still see that.
And even just God had so much grace with him in that he was like, Lord, I don't think I can go there. And so he's like, can I go to this other, like, smaller town that's right here? And God's like, okay, like, that's not really where I called you to. I did call you to go over there, but okay, like, you're still trying to follow me by leaving the city. You are still leaving. And I'm going to have grace with you because you're leaving it. So he did have grace with him in that moment because, like, people are imperfect. So he's, like, not following Lord to where he originally said. But, you know, the Lord had grace with him.
Yeah.
He was so kind.
Yeah, I love that part, too, because I think it really shows the relational aspect with God. I mean, that's something for me. I didn't really grow up Christian. I can get into that later, maybe another episode or something. But just kind of something that I've learned that's really important over anything is, like, your relationship that you have with God and building that.
Yeah.
And even, like, in these passages, you see how, like, Job is, or not Job, sorry. I was just finished reading Job.
We were talking about Job the other night.
That's why I'm like, all of this. Sorry, lots. I mean, Job also had a relationship with the Lord, so, you know, there's that. But with Lot, you can kind of see in this passage, especially how he was kind of talking to God and, like, coming to him and saying, like, hey, like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I know you're sending me stuff and I know you're doing this. Like, can I do this? And, like, the Lord even, he said, where was it? Like, yeah, I will grant you this favor and I will not overthrow the city which you have spoken of. So it's like, I think a lot of us sometimes are kind of scared to even just go and talk to the Lord, but that's really what he wants. He wants us to talk with him and, like, tell him how we're feeling and our fears and, like, what it is, and maybe he can, not maybe, obviously he will work with us and make a way, like he made a way for Lot. And so I think even in this story you kind of see both characters examples of, like, what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing. And so you see Lot, who, just like his wife, probably is scared, doesn't want to leave the city.
And that was his home. Like, the city was his home for a while, so it's, like, so hard to get up and leave everything.
Yeah, for sure, exactly. And so he's literally giving up everything and he's unsure. But what we see him do is he leans into God and he trusts God. And he follows God, like, even though it's difficult, you know. And I think what we see with Lot's wife, right? She's longing for what God is trying to set her free from. And I think a lot of us can feel like that some way. And so it's really interesting because I was actually, a couple weeks back, I was listening to church and the pastor just threw in this, like, side comment how a lot of us are like Lot's wife. And I started thinking about it more and just going back into this passage, it really shows us that, like, God is trying to set us free from some things. Like, God has better plans for us. We know this. And a lot of us are looking back and, like, longing for the things that God is calling us out of. So yeah, do you have anything else that, like, you were wanting to add about this passage, or?
Yeah, well, I just, when I was reading it, when they were saying, escape for your life, do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley, escape to the hills, lest you be swept away. The words kind of, like, swept away were making me think of, like, how, like, as we were talking about being pulled out of temptations, and it's like, I found, especially for some of the things that God has, like, been pulling me away from that I used to be tempted to do, when I kind of, like, even do it a little bit, it can be easy to be, like, swept back into it and feel that again, be like, oh, I want to do this more, even if it's, like, not something super bad, but, like, something that wasn't the best for me to be doing as much as I did. Like, when I open that door a little bit, I'm like, oh, like, maybe I'll do it for a little while, then I can feel myself being tempted to do it more. And so it's like, when you look back, or, like, kind of look back at it, you can feel, like, swept away by it, you know, when you take your eyes off the Lord. I mean, it's just like when Peter goes and falls into the water, when he was walking on the water in, more in the New Testament, but when Jesus walked in the water and he calls Peter to walk on the water with him, when he took his eyes off Jesus and looked at everything around him, he fell in because he took his eyes off the Lord. And I think it's like similar here. It's like when she stops looking towards the Lord, where the Lord wants her to go, and she looks back at behind her where she wasn't supposed to look, then that's where she dies in this story. And so it's like when you take your eyes off the Lord and where he's leading you to go, it can be so easy to be like swept away and like taken back into that.
I like what you're saying about keeping our eyes on the Lord. And also I want to hit on what you're talking about of doing things that are quote unquote not so bad, if you will. I remember, just hearing about this for the first time, it's like it was kind of transformational for me. But a lot of times idols that we have in our lives are not necessarily bad things of themselves, right? Like even relationships, like music, celebrities, like all these things, like
even your hobbies,
friendships, hobbies, any of it.
They're not necessarily negative.
Even work. Like God can bless you with work, and he can bless you with friendships, and he can bless you. These are very good things. But like if those things start to come before the Lord, right? If you take your eyes off the Lord and you start to prioritize all these other things before him, right? It's kind of creates this distorted kind of love where, like you said, kind of what happens to us is, like Lot's wife, turning away from God. It really shows like what can happen, right?
Yeah, and it can just happen like even just bit by bit. You're not even realizing it in your life when you're just like starting to prioritize something more and more above the Lord.
Yeah,
it's like you gotta be. It's a good thing to be aware of. Like that's why like we're talking about it, because it's not like you shouldn't be like, oh, like it's a bad thing to do. But no, you need to be aware of it and think about it, because if you just like let it slowly happen and your desires slowly shift, then
even I like what you're saying about kind of talking about listening to your convictions. And even in this story we see how Lot was kind of trying to ignore it at first. He was like, oh, like I don't know, like should I go, should I not? And he was kind of like hesitant, like he wanted to remain. I don't know if you have like the specific verse here. We love like going back to the word, but it says,
I think it was up here. The morning dawned, straight after that. They say go, but he lingered.
Oh yeah, verse 16, but he lingered. And so I think it's kind of talking about that, like sometimes we have convictions, right? But we don't want to be lingering on them. But even so, like you said before, going back to it, like God still has grace for us if you keep your eyes on him, and if you talk to him and have that relationship with him and keep your eyes on him. And if you're like Lot, and you may mess up, you may linger, you may not necessarily go to like the full potential, but you're still working it out with God, and you're focused on him and you're trusting him.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so you also had a few verses that you wanted to mention from Psalms kind of playing into this.
So the past couple days we've been kind of like thinking about this topic and how we're going to talk about it for our first episode. And so a verse came to my mind: delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. So I had seen this on, I think it's in a sign in my parents' house.
And that's what verse again?
And that is Psalm 37:4. So it's delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. So at first I didn't even know where it was found. I just knew this verse, and so I was looking into it and seeing where it was found in the Bible. And so I looked it up and found it in Psalms. And just, I feel like originally, like when I first heard this verse, I was thinking, why would God put that in the Bible? Because it's saying like, delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. It's going to make people think like, if I delight myself in the Lord, he's going to give me everything I want. He's going to give me all the riches and the job and everything I want. If I'm delighting myself in the Lord, I'm going to get all these things. And then if they don't get it, they're like, why? Why did God say that if I delight in him, I'll get everything that I want, basically? And so I'm like, okay, so why did God put it in the Bible? But then I was thinking about it, and I'm like, the first part of the verse is key. It's delight yourself in the Lord. So when you're delighting yourself in the Lord, that means the Lord is what you desire. The Lord is what you find the most important. And he will give you desires of your heart. Your desires become more aligned with him. As you're delighting yourself in his word and becoming closer to him, your desires become more like what his desires are. And so your desires will start to shift to his. And so you will get the desires of your heart. You will feel fulfilled, but they just won't be what you used to think was important, like maybe money and riches and the job you want. And God still can bless you with that in this life. He still does sometimes. But the most important thing to you, when you're truly delighting yourself in the Lord, will be the Lord and the things that he wants and loves. Even just like, the desire of the Lord, like loving others and stuff like that. Like you'll have more of a desire to want to do that and to want to show that Christ-like love. And so you will get the desires And so I thought that was cool.
Yeah, no, I like how you're talking about that because it kind of shows us how it can create the temptation to only go for God for like material blessings, kind of treating him like a genie in a bottle type of thing. Like, okay, like I'm gonna delight myself in God, but just so I can get these things. And sometimes people have this temptation to, well, I'm only gonna pray to him and I'm only gonna praise God just so I can get these things. I'm always just gonna be asking him for like stuff nonstop. But like, where's the point where you're delighting in him, where you're just like worshiping him for who he is? And I think even like we see that going back to Lot's story and Lot's wife, when you desire the creature, you know, more than the creator. I think there's a verse about that, like loving the creature more than the creator is like a common mistake we can do. And yeah, with Lot's wife, she was really like longing for those things of the world, right, instead of delighting in God and trusting in God. So I think even that verse can.
Yeah, and I think lately what I've been trying to do, like over the past little while, is really deny the desires like that I've had, like the worldly desires, even as we were saying, like even if they're not super bad things, they're just like kind of been taking too much of a priority in my life. And so I've really been trying to work on denying those desires. And although yes, it's been hard and it's been hard to do that, and I've gone through ups and downs, and sometimes I'm like, this is great, oh, it's wonderful, and other times I'm like, why am I doing this? Is this really necessary? Because it's not necessarily a terrible thing, it's just but the Lord has made me feel fulfilled in him, and he has been changing my desires, and I still feel so fulfilled, and he's been, I don't know, like even just putting new things in my life that I enjoy too, and just giving me a healthier relationship with those things too. So I have more healthy relationship. I'm not depending on them as much, and I'm depending on the Lord more. So I've been able to get a healthier relationship with them and desiring the Lord more. And it's just, like, it was a struggle, even just like as he's leaving, it was a struggle for him to leave, and so it was a little bit rough when the angels were like, okay, you gotta go, it's time to go. But it's like the Lord has been like fulfilling me, and I feel like my desire for him has been growing, which has been so cool and incredible. And I haven't felt like empty or less because I haven't had those old desires. But cool.
And I also want to talk about more of a practical example, because anyone who's watching is probably thinking, okay, you keep bringing up these things that the Lord is calling you out of, or things that you're giving up, and what does that look like, you know? I want to say for both of us, this is just kind of where we've been convicted in, especially, and not to say that like all of this is bad, but something that we've been convicted on lately is our journey with music, right? I mean, both of us really love music, and I think like music is an important part of our lives, of like worship, of anything. I mean, there's a lot of good music out there, but just I want you to talk a bit about like your journey with music and what that's looked like and what you've like felt convicted about.
Yeah. Well, so when I was younger, I was a very Jamie Grace fan girl, growing up, which I don't know if you know her, but she's basically a Christian artist, but I was always Jamie Grace fan, and that was kind of all I listened to. And then as I went into high school, I kind of like started listening to more music and just kind of like listening to more. I even like, it was funny because I feel like I was listening to like, I don't know, One Direction and stuff like that, or like random ones that like used to be popular, and I was listening to them then. Anyway, but I was just starting to like experience new music and just kind of like figure out what I liked, what I didn't like, but I would like had a whole new realm of music that I would listen to. But anyway, so I wasn't listening to anything super bad or explicit, but I was listening to just more and more music, rather than what I just listened to before. And so as this went on, I just had more and more music, and I found that as I said, wasn't listening to super bad music, but I just wasn't listening to a lot of Christian music per se. Like I did have Christian music that I would listen to. I'd have a couple songs that I liked, whatever, but I didn't have any like artists that I like loved, that I was like, oh, this Christian artist. I when I'm like just listening to music for something, I'm like, I'm just gonna just enjoy this songs. I would have mostly like secular artists that I would listen to and kind of enjoy. And so again, they weren't necessarily bad artists, but they were, you know, they weren't Christian artists. And even I had some Christian playlists, but like, I was kind of struggling to find ones that I'm like interested in that, like, you know, you've got the worship songs, which are great, but when you're trying to like listen to music and kind of like vibe to music, it's kind of like, you know, you don't always want to listen to like the classic like church worship songs. And so anyways, so then at the beginning of this year, I felt the Lord calling me to just stop listening to secular music, just to complete cut. And so I did. So I stopped listening to secular music 100%, and I just said, okay, Christian music. But then I found myself being like, oh, wait, I don't have a whole lot of Christian artists that I like listen to. I mean, that I like love. But I'm like, okay, we'll see. So I started listening to music and listening to more Christian music. And I found myself finding like a bunch of Christian songs. It was slow at first, like just finding different ones. And then it was so cool because I would pray to Lord and I would ask him, I would say, I would be like, Lord, I'm really struggling because I really want to be able to enjoy music again. And I really want to enjoy it as much as I did before and be able to just sit and enjoy it. Be like, I love this song. It's great. I love this artist. But have it be Christian. And so it was just incredible because the Lord started giving me, like, as I said, it took time. At first it was a struggle, trying to find music I liked. But he gave me these artists that, like, now I truly love more than any of the secular artists I had before. Like, I love them because it's like, it keeps my mind on the Lord as I'm listening to them. I love the way they sing the songs, like the style of it, but just it keeps my eyes on the Lord as I listen to music, which is cool. And also I just love these songs, and so it's just so cool because the Lord has given me multiple different artists that I absolutely love, and I'm just so excited. Like, someone just came out with Grace Runkle, actually. She came out with the song Grace the other day, and it's so good and so beautiful, talking about the Lord's love and how the Lord gave his life for us, but then, like, so we're like, oh, what do you expect in return? But he expects us to follow him and love him in return. And so anyways, so that was just really cool, finding artists that I truly love and enjoy. And again, it's still a bit of a struggle because currently I'm still not listening to secular music, apart from, like, obviously if someone in the dorm or whatever is playing it, I'm not gonna ask them to stop. I mean, as long as it's not terrible music. But my personal time, I'm still not listening to secular music. And so it's been since the beginning of this year, and now it's October. But it's just so cool to see how many artists and how many songs I truly love and enjoy. And so sometimes it's still a bit of a struggle. Like, I'll hear a song that I loved before, and I'm like, oh, I remember just vibing to that song for so long. I'm like, I loved that song. But it's so cool to see how much the Lord has provided in even just like the Christian music lately, and that's just incredible to see. But again, it hasn't been 100% easy, but it's just really cool.
Yeah, I think it goes back to even like going back to what we're talking about a lot, like, we're not perfect, we mess up, but also just having our heart's desire to be following the Lord and delighting in him. And something that I want to touch upon, like, you were talking about, like, music, is it good, is it bad, and like everyone kind of will discern this in their own way, but something I think that really came to us, that really hit us, was just knowing that the music that we listen to really shapes us. Yeah. So, even if it's not, like, quote unquote bad, like, are you meditating on the Lord mostly, or like things of this world? And I think for me, one of the biggest things was, how does the music that I listen to make me feel? Like, for example, I'll just touch on this. I mean, maybe you guys are struggling with some of the same things, but like, I would get into these like things where I would just start listening to either like really like sad like breakup songs, and like, I don't have anything like that like going on in my life, but like, I would just get so into it, and I would just like feel so sad. Or even just like listening to like a bunch of love songs, and then you just like, love is good, but you're just kind of like in that a little bit. You can get a bit like delusional, if you will, and like it's just not setting your mind like on the right things, I would say. So I think for me, like, the biggest thing is not just paying attention to like lyrics is like a very big thing for me, that I've paid attention to, but also just like, how is this making me feel, and is this good? And like a bigger part of this is, has music become an idol? And I would say like, I know, like, me, I've been knowing Hannah for like almost 3 years now, and when I met her, I would say she would listen to music all the time. She would always have her earbuds in. I mean, you still listen to music a lot.
Still listen to music a lot,
but I think that's something that it's been like so nice to see in you, that like, when God is calling you to be different, right, and calling you to something that you feel is really difficult. I mean, that must have been really difficult for you to give up all of that music and all of that time and reshaping it, right? And it's not like sometimes, right, like, God will just take it away, but also if you see, he will often renew it with something better, right? If we look at Lot's story, like, he took away like he destroyed his home and his city, but he said, well, I'm gonna give you a new city to live in, like, I want you to move over here. And I think similar to with your Christian music, what you're going through, is like, you felt like, oh, I need to stop listening to this because this isn't, not the Christian music, but stop listening to the secular music because you felt it wasn't good for you. It might have been an idol, or just in general, it might not have made you feel like
I mean, even as you were talking about with how it's like making you feel and how it touched you, I feel like music really does that. Like, I don't know if it's as much to a degree as like everyone, but I feel like, as you were saying, it really touches me and like makes me feel something. So when you're listening to something that's like upsetting and the person's upset, like I feel like I would truly feel upset, and I would kind of like, I don't know, just get into your head. And so like when it's like when the song's focusing on the Lord, it's like so much, like it doesn't make you feel depressed, you know?
Yeah, it's
or
putting
like
your mind on
you know?
greater
It's
things.
putting your mind on greater things.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think like often, especially as Christians, I think we have to, something that I've gone is I want to be careful about what I'm listening to, because the words, especially in the messaging, like if you're singing that over and over and over and over, you're just like repeating that in your brain, and it's like you're almost coming into agreement with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, even
and what are you coming into agreement with? Like you shouldn't, that shouldn't be a thing you take lightly.
Yeah.
What you're coming into agreement with.
And I would say a lot of times when I'm listening to secular music, I can see like how broken this world is, right? It helps me see kind of like the heartbreak and the jealousy and the anger that people are expressing through their songs, which is like so natural. Like we're in a broken world, right? That's what we're living in. But it's like, should I be coming into agreement, right? Like there's this one song that's like really catchy and it's like so fun, but it's like talking about like jealousy, and like obviously like Christ has called us to not be jealous and to forgive. And so it's like, I think for us, we've just been on a huge journey of like, what music do we listen to and how does that shape us? And so we just wanted to really share that with you guys and hopefully encourage you guys. Maybe some of you guys are also going through that, and some of you guys are struggling with like, should I be listening to secular music, or what music should I be listening to? Or maybe it's not music, maybe it's something else, maybe it's like a hobby or something that you feel like God is calling you to give up, but you feel like it's hard. And that's, I think, something we really want to hit on is it's not going to be easy. Yeah. You know, like the temptation is always there, and it's for a reason.
And it gets easier, but it's not easy, it's hard. And even just making sure that you're not just like, okay, I'm going to give it up, but looking to the Lord as you're giving it up, like being like, I can't do this alone. It's not me like it is you choosing to give it up, but it's like not, you can't do it alone. Like you need the Lord to be with you in it. You need to acknowledge that you aren't strong enough to do it on your own. Like you're like, Lord, I need you to help me control this, like my desire to do this thing more, and like asking the Lord for help and to be with you in it is so important.
Yeah. And I would say like a lot of times, especially with Christianity, I find it's you take away but then you replace, right? So like you like even there's like this one story, we have so much to talk about, but where there was kind of like these like demons or like spirits in this place, and like sent them away, but then they came back 7 times worse. Like I don't know if you guys know that story, but basically it's kind of the idea that like, okay, you can get rid of these things that are bad in your life, or you can like pray to get rid of these things and do that, but like if you don't fill that like with something else, like you're filling that with like Christian music that's glorifying God and thinking about him, that's gonna fill you. Whereas if you just like cold turkey just like cut it and like nothing, I mean obviously the temptation is still there, but it would be so much more, right? And so I think like one of the biggest things for us with music is not just giving up on all music and just saying music
because there can be great music that can glorify the Lord.
And it's not saying like all music is bad and we should just like stop listening
or
to
saying
anything.
That only like you should only listen to songs you've heard in church and stuff like that. Like there are some songs that are great and glorify the Lord, but they aren't necessarily like church like worship songs. And
so it's like a matter of, I think for us, we just want to share how the conviction that we had of what music we should listen to, how it makes us feel. And something that made it really clear for me, I would say, so I kind of have a bit of the opposite journey of music with Hannah. Some of you might feel this. So I became Christian, and around like 2020, I would say, like I got baptized, and then I came to Christian school here, and I thought everyone was going to be on the same page. Turns out people have a lot of different versions of where they draw the line, right? Like some people draw the line over here, and some people are all the way over here, and so I get here.
It's so different. So many people from like different ways they grew up and different things all coming together, and you think they're the same because it's Christian school, but no, it's so different.
And so kind of how I came of it, I was like, okay, well, I was like of the world, I was in the world, and I just like don't want to be that anymore, and I wanted to get away from that like as far as possible. And I would say for me, so like I mean music wasn't that important to me, I'm not gonna lie. Before I was Christian, I didn't really think about it that much. Like I would listen to it here and there, But so I just gave that up, like, you know, and so then I started listening to Christian music. I started building that, but like I would never listen to secular music. It just wasn't a thing. Like in my house, it was like secular music is bad and you don't listen to it, period. That's it. And then I come to this school and I have like some of my closest friends who like love the Lord, and they're on their walk with Christ and they're Christian and they're doing a lot of good things, and but then yet they're listening to secular music, and some of the songs also that I've heard people listen to, I'm like, oh, like, it's a bit questionable, you know? And I think it goes back to, like, everyone, like, allows different things, but, like, what should we be allowing?
It's even just, we were talking about this the other night, it's like people are like, okay, so I'm gonna listen to secular music because some is, like, not bad. But then, like, where are you drawing the line? People draw a very different line, but then it's like some people draw it, okay, no swearing and no, like, I don't know, singing about explicit things. But then it's like, Miranda was talking about, what about things like jealousy and stuff like that, which are sins? Should we be coming into agreement with that? So then, like, where does the line fall there? But then how strict it's, so it's like, when you're listening to it, it's like, it's so hard to, like, figure out where you're drawing this line, rather than if you cut it off, like,
I would say,
it's a hard thing.
It's like anything, when you open the door to it, I think it's a lot harder to shut it. And so for me, I came in, I was only listening to Christian music. I come here, people are listening to secular music, so I start to be like, okay, well, like, maybe I can listen to some, and then I start listening to more and more and more, and I come to a point where I'm like, okay, like, where's my line? Like, my line is all over the place. And I would say, I think I wasn't very convicted about it. I think sometimes we can kind of sear our conscience a little bit, which is not a good thing, let's add, but, you know, we just, oh, well, everyone's doing it, so it's fine.
It's very easy to be like, they're Christian, they seem to be, like, they go to church every Sunday, they look like they're worshiping the Lord and, like, following him, but they're also doing
maybe they genuinely are. Like, it's
they might genuinely are, they're just not convicted about it yet. So they might literally be fully on fire for the Lord, but they're just not convicted about this aspect yet. But you can't let what they're not convicted about then, like, make you think it's okay. If the Lord is convicting you about it, you can't then think it's okay just because they're not convicted about it yet. Because maybe they will down the line, but you just gotta let the Lord convict them. Yeah. But you can't be like, because they're doing this, then I can do this. If the Lord is speaking to you and convicting you about it, you gotta listen to the Lord first.
Yeah, you know? I like what you're saying about that. Like, everyone is also convicted about different things at different times, and so, like, what he's calling you to do might not be what he's calling someone else to do. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I think sometimes the journey can look really different, and we can be tempted to, like, look at other people for reassurance and, well, they're doing this, so it's fine. But again, we're supposed to look to the Lord. But going back to kind of my story in music, and how it's changed, I would say, like, so I began only listening to Christian music when I became Christian. Then I started listening to secular music. And I'd say where it got really clear for me was actually really recently. I started to feel like, okay, like, I should maybe go back to my roots and go back to listening to, like, just Christian music, and, like, focusing my mind on, like, the good things, and making sure that music is not an idol, even Christian music, making sure that that's not, like, an idol in my life, and that I'm not just, like, playing it just, like, feel good, but that I'm really, like, focusing on like, loving God and Jesus, and, like, focusing on who he is. But I think for me, it got really clear when we went to a worship night, actually not that long ago, and it was great. It was just a small thing. A couple of students just came together on campus to worship the Lord, and it was really good. And then I came back from that, and it's interesting because I think it was, like, the week before maybe, or something, or 2 weeks before, I think it's within the week. It was, anyways, a little bit before, I had felt convicted to delete a bunch of my secular music playlists. And even
she just texted me and she's like, I deleted them.
Yeah, but, like, even so, I wasn't ready to give them all up. I think that goes back to a lot, right? Like, he's like, oh, like, I'm, like, hesitant, like, I'm ready to go here, but, like, I'm not ready to, like, fully, you know, like, full send, full go.
It's just like, that's a lot.
Yeah,
so
like, that's a lot.
Do a
so,
little
like,
bit here first.
So I'm gonna, like, delete, like, most of them, but like, I'm gonna keep some of them.
Because it's hard. Yeah,
and so that's where I was at. And so then we have this worship night, and it was great, and I didn't think anything of it. And then, like, right after the worship night, I'm telling you, like, I've never felt such a strong urge to, like, go listen to all of the music that I just deleted. And I was explaining this to my dad, actually, and I think that's when it got really clear to me of the line where, like, this music wasn't good for me, because it had become a temptation. It's like, it was almost like a perversion of worship, if you will, where it's like instead of glorifying God, I'm agreeing and like glorifying all these other things that I shouldn't be. And yeah, for me, it's just like coming back from a night of worship, like a night of holiness.
You should be like focused on the Lord.
And focusing on the Lord. And the temptation never hits so hard. And like I said, it's interesting because before I became Christian, I mean, like I did listen to music, but it wasn't that big of a thing. But I would say it's become more of a pull. And something that I think is really interesting, it's just like I've heard about how like Satan, right, before he fell, he was in charge of the worship music. And so it's interesting. I would say for me, I see like for a lot of people, music is a very big temptation. And so it's like, yeah, like wouldn't he want us to kind of pervert like music in a certain way, or like wouldn't he want us to be focusing on the wrong things, and wouldn't he cause that to be a temptation?
Exactly.
You know,
and like even she was saying there was like this song that she was liking that she's like, I don't know if it's the best, but it's so catchy. It's like, oh, it's got a catchy tune and like everyone's singing it. Or even if you're on social media or whatever, you're hearing some sort of song and it's getting in your head and it's like, it sounds fun and good and whatever, but like you gotta, like Satan can use that as a way to like kind of get in. It's like, oh, it sounds nice, but it's like, what is it singing about? Like is it, are you coming into agreement with the wrong things? And it's like, you can kind of use that to get in.
Yeah, and so then, like, after that, I was explaining that, and then I just deleted all of my playlists. I was like, you know what, like, I just made the decision that, like, this is not conducive for me, this is not good for me. And I felt like I should go back to where I was and, like, focusing on God, and not be coming to agreement with and listening to these songs that are talking about, like, all these ungodly messages, if you will, even though like they're catchy, even though they sound good. And I will admit, like, I've still struggled even to this day. Like one of them, like I found the songs again, and so like I think it's really a decision you have to make. And like you said, it's gonna be hard, but it's really like a line you have to draw in the sand, and you have to draw it. And like you can't let other people influence where your line goes. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're like, the Bible tells us to follow our convictions, and if you're really feeling convicted of like, this is where I should be, but all these other people are doing that, let all the other people do what they want to do. Yeah,
but if the Lord is telling you something, like, that comes first and foremost. You gotta listen to Him.
Yeah.
Whether it's about music or anything else. Like,
anything else, yeah.
Like, if the Lord is telling you something, if the Lord is convicting you something, you listen to that, no matter what others says, or if they're or even if sometimes other Christians are saying, like, I've got this before about certain things, like, that's dumb. That's not really that bad. Like, really? Like, is it that bad? Like, I've seen worse, or whatever, like, but I'm like, yes, maybe it's not the worst thing, or, like, maybe it's not terrible, but if the Lord is telling me something, like, that's what you gotta go with first. And, like, I'm not perfect, so there's been times where I'm, like, not fully listening to the Lord. I'm like, are you actually saying? And then He sometimes tends to tell me again and again, and then I'm like, okay, wait, you've been telling me this. I'm sorry, I've been terrible at listening. Yeah. But it's like, when you know the Lord is telling you something, like, you gotta listen to Him first.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. And I think, like, that's something big, too, of when, sometimes it can also be a temptation of, like, when you fail, you're like, it's too late, like, I'll just give it up. I mean, like I said, like, I had deleted the playlist, and after the worship night, like, I re-downloaded it, and for me, it kind of felt like, okay, well, I decided to re-download it, I'm just gonna ignore the conviction, and I'm just gonna let it fly and whatever. Like, that was in the past, and I failed, and I decided to do this, so I'm just gonna stay here. But it's like, no, like, you can still go back, you can still do better, and you can still, like, go where you feel like God is calling to. Just because you messed up doesn't mean you have to stay there.
Yeah, it's very important. No, like, I feel like I've struggled with that in the past, where it's like, if I fail, then, like, that's it, I failed. But it's like, no, the Lord can still get you right back on that path. He can still help you get back on the path. And it's like, the Lord, He's the most forgiving God. Like, we are continually sinning, so He will forgive you, and He will help you get on the path. And it's okay if it's a journey, but you have to work to get back on that path. And it's like, you have to just be like, okay, I failed a little bit here, or I didn't do this, I kind of didn't listen to the Lord for this thing, but that's okay. You can kind of, you can do better. Yeah. Sometimes it takes baby steps to get there, but you can get there to a close relationship with the Lord. Yeah. No, honestly, and I think it's the type of thing where it's like, when you fail, right, get back up. Don't just stay. Yeah. Don't just stay on the ground. Be like, oh Lord, I failed. Oh, shoot, and that's it. Like, but it is hard. As much as we're laughing about it right now, it is very hard. But it's something that, like, for me, I've learned that when I get convicted, like, a yes is a yes and a no is a no, and you really have to try and strive as close to that and stick true to that as much as you can.
So yeah, I know we've been talking a lot about music. That's just been kind of one area that we've been really convicted
especially
on.
because we've just been convicted with that, and it's just kind of built, especially the last little bit, we've been like kind of having different conversations about that and like what we've learned and like how we've been struggling and stuff like that.
And I know like music is a big part for our generation, at least. There's a lot of people that it impacts, so we kind of just wanted to share that. And going back to the original purpose of this podcast, right, like we've been having these conversations and we've been kind of just growing together in our convictions, right, and like trying to do better and stuff. And so we're just hoping that maybe, you know, if we're sharing this with you guys, maybe you're also struggling with music, maybe it's something else, but maybe just hearing us talk about it is going to encourage you, like, you know what, I can do this, I can give it up. And I think another conversation that we've had a lot of is like, you know, talking about the line. A lot of people just draw the line of like, well, I'm not going to go to hell if I do this. And it's like, I think for me a big conviction is like, why is that the line? You know, why?
Because the line should be like, is it helping me? Is it drawing me closer to the Lord even? Like,
for me it's like, why isn't the line obeying God, pleasing God? Like, shouldn't our heart want to delight in the Lord and please him, right? Going back to your verse, like, so I think we've just been trying to strive closer to having our line being like delighting in the Lord. And obviously, like I said, we're not perfect, and I think this is almost like encouraging, because it's like no one's perfect and you might have messed up, and like that's okay, you know. But just the Lord calls us to come and repent and turn from our ways,
and like listening to the Lord, like what might, first of all, asking him what might he want you to give up, and like how much you need to give up. Like, is it like he's just asking you to, is it a certain thing you're doing in your life that he's like, okay, I need you to stop doing that? Or is it just, I need you to do that a little bit less? Like, stop spending so much time on it and focusing on it so much, and it's becoming an idol. It's just, maybe you just need to do that less in your life, or maybe you need to cut off completely. Whatever it is, like looking to the Lord and asking the Lord for understanding and like guidance on that. And even just like, if you're in a time of like even if it's a couple weeks or whatever, and you're praying about it, it's so cool how I've seen like sometimes I'll be praying about something, and then like a pastor or something at like chapel on Wednesdays or at Sunday will like mention something that's something I've been praying about, and obviously I don't know, and I'm like, it's cool because the Lord is, or like even in my personal Bible reading, like the Lord will speak to me and it'll be something I've been praying about. And so sometimes it takes a little bit of time, and like you're praying about stuff, but Lord will speak to you through different ways, which is so cool.
No, for sure. So yeah, I think for us it's been a lot of that, but for you it could be something else. And so we just want to encourage you, if you're struggling with something and you feel like you're convicted, definitely, I like what you said about praying about it. I think a lot of us can forget that, at least for me. Sometimes I forget that prayer is like a lifeline, and that, we can just talk to God, be like Lot, and like talk to him. And, you know, kind of the Bible mentions about like wrestling with God and like talking to him and just showing him your convictions and saying, you know what, like this is where I'm at, and like help me to be where you are calling me to, right?
Yeah, and then come back to the title of our podcast. Like, God is so good. Like, He is so understanding. Like, He wants you to talk to him and tell him all that you're feeling, because He knows all that you're feeling already. So if you're struggling or doing what, or you know, or whatever it is, like He wants you to tell him everything, and He's so understanding and so good, and He'll like help you through it.
Yeah, and that's another reason why we want to start this podcast. We called it He's So Good, because that's just something that we've been seeing a lot in our lives. I think like one reason, if you ask me like why, or like what makes you believe in Jesus, and like how, like what makes it like inevitable, like obviously there's a lot of historical proofs. I mean, we're going to a Christian school, we learn about this, like the history of it, and like the arguments and stuff like that. But just like in our own lives, in my life personally, something that one of my biggest prayers has been like, God, like show yourself to me, like I want to see you in my life. I think a lot of times for us, it's not that he's not moving, it's just that we don't see it, or we don't see how he's moving.
And so asking the Lord for eyes to see how he's moving, and he'll show you. He'll show you if you're asking him and have a desire to see.
Yeah, and I think also like surrounding yourself with a community. I think like we've grown a lot together in the Lord, and even just going through like our music journeys, I think like I don't know, maybe it wasn't, but maybe seeing, like, I didn't listen to any secular music, and that might have put that idea in your head, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. And then me seeing you listening to secular music was kind of like the good influence, like, bad influence, where I was like, oh, well, like, I'll just start listening to it. And you're like, well, like, I'll stop listening to it.
It's true. It's like the back and forth.
And so we're kind of, but, like, we're growing together, but, like, you know, obviously, like, the growth is not, like, you know, always like straight up, but like it's kind of like this give and take. It's like this up and down, but like
and like when
you're growing.
Yeah, and even as we were saying, like we encourage each other, and like sometimes there's certain aspects where this person is like this, and this person's like encouraging them up, being like, oh, come on, like trying encouraging them on the faith, but then this person is like, okay, it's like a back and forth, you know, and different things. We've each learned different things and kind of like encouraging each other, and this is something that we've both been kind of working towards. But then there's different parts of our life that like we're working through different things, and kind of like we're both encourage each other, just so.
Yeah, so I know you had another verse from Psalm 37 that you wanted to share.
Yeah.
So go ahead with that.
Yeah, so this one is actually at the beginning. It's like verses 1 and 2 of Psalm 37. So it's, fret not yourself because of evildoers, be not envious of wrongdoers, for they will soon fade like the grass and wither like the green herb. So, yeah.
Take it away.
Okay, so this is I feel like we touched on this a little bit earlier, but it's kind of like, when you're looking to what other people are doing, and you're like, either people who are like Christian and doing something that they haven't been convicted about yet, or even just people who, even sometimes we look at people who aren't Christian and they're doing something, and we're just like, why are they allowed to do all these different things, and like why can't I do these things, and like they're not necessarily wrong, and we can kind of be envious that they're able to do all these things that like we're like not doing, because like we can have such a desire, we can be like, okay, I'm following you, Lord, I'm not going to do these things, but then we look around and we're like, but like they're doing these things, especially when it's like Christians and they're doing something that they haven't been convicted about, because we're like, they're supposed to be in the same line with us, but then they're doing this thing, and it can be so hard to be like, God, why can't I do this thing? Like you start to get envious. You're like, why can't I do it too? But it's like, the fact is, the things of this earth are so momentary, and like it feels so long because we live here 80 years, and 80 years feels like forever to us, but it's not actually.
Or more.
Okay, sorry. Or more than 80 years.
Hopefully more.
I'm sorry. 84 years in my brain is like the round. Sorry, that's weird. Anyways, or more, between 80 and 100 years, probably. Anyways, I'm not giving you a cap. You can live hopefully long. Anyways.
Let's not put a cap on this.
Either way, okay, let's say 120 years. However long, 120 years. Not a lot of people live to that. But if you do, like that feels a long time. And eternity is so much longer. Like so much longer. And so the end of the verse, like they will soon fade like the grass and wither like the green herb. So whether that's like that's like the person, like the thing in general, like so many words, like what they're pursuing, like if they're pursuing money or whatever, like that will wither, or like what they're doing, like you're like, why are they allowed to do this? The things of this world, they will fade. They will be in like 100 years from now, you will be in heaven, hopefully, and none of that will matter. It will all be gone. So doing things, it can feel so, I want to do it because I want to make myself happy right now. I want to, but it's like, it's not going to last long. So the things of the Lord, so when you're pursuing the Lord, your relationship with the Lord is most important, because that's going to last for eternity. And doing things that the Lord wants you to do are going to last for eternity. Like when the Lord asks you to show Christ-like love to other people, first of all, you should be showing love, but also second of all, you are embodying like Christ to them. If they don't know the Lord, they're seeing you and seeing as a Christian, should be acting like Christ, and that will last eternally, because who knows, maybe you'll point them towards the Lord, or or maybe you're just encouraging brothers and sisters in Christ, and they'll be coming with you to eternity. So those things will last, whereas the things of this earth that they're pursuing and finding so important, and might feel important to you because it might make you happy in the moment, will fade.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add?
Yeah,
I try to say that as clearly as possible.
I do actually.
Thought, but
I really like what you said about this, and it brought me back to actually, I want to give like a more applicable example.
Yeah.
I remember my first year in university, actually, I had spent so much time writing this paper, and I like hours, and just like going over it and like revision after revision, just making sure it's like as perfect as possible so I could get like the best grade. Like I really wanted to do well on this paper, and I did do pretty well from what I remember. And then I remembered somebody else was talking about it, and they were like, oh yeah, like I spent like, I don't know, like half an hour, like they spent like barely any time on it, like compared to what I had. And I was thinking like, oh my gosh,
like, we work on the same assignment,
right? Like I was like, I spent all this time on this assignment trying to perfect it and do good, and this person was satisfied with their grade, and they quote unquote got a good grade according to them, and they spent like not even 1/10 of the time that I did. And so I was like, what did I do wrong? And so
sometimes, like, was I wasting my time by doing that much?
And so sometimes it can feel like when we compare ourselves to others, it can make us feel like, well, like I feel like I'm doing so much more, I'm putting in so much more effort, I'm doing like so, like, is it even worth it? Like you were saying, like, is it even worth it to like stop listening to secular music. It's so much work, it's so much like temptation that I have to avoid. Like, is it even worth it?
Like denying your desires of the moment that make you happy now.
Yeah, and in the moment sometimes we don't understand, but something like later I learned that this person was content with like a way different grade than me. You know what I'm saying? And that's not necessarily bad, but we were striving for different things. Like, I was striving for like the best that I could possibly do, and this person just kind of wanted to like get along and just like pass and do okay, and so I think it just shows like, even I think about this like spiritually, like you said, you come to, it could be at church. I mean, for us it's like a Christian school, it could be in the workplace, wherever you are, especially when you're surrounded by a lot of Christians and you see them and they have different standards than you, and like certain little things like in their convictions and stuff like that, and it can feel tough to be like, well, I'm feeling like convicted of this, and it can feel tough to actually stick to it, because God might be calling you to a different standard, like just like I had a different standard than this other person, right? You might be being called to a different standard, and it will be hard. That's something like we just want to like say, like avoiding like whatever temptation you're going through, like we just want to say that
it's not easy. We're not saying it's easy, we're not saying it will be easy, and we're not saying like if you're struggling right now, we're not saying like I'm sure it is hard, but looking to the Lord for strength is so important.
And I think it's also acknowledging that like, we're in a broken world, we're in like a sin-filled world, and so it's like, in this world, what is our thing is to fix our eyes upon Jesus.
And we're not striving to be just a Christian. We're not just striving to be a Christian. We're just striving to know the Lord more and to be like Jesus. Like, we're not just striving to be Christian, we're striving to be more like Jesus and to love him more and to desire him more. And so it's not just to be a Christian, which is kind of like, they have certain things, like they're like following the Lord. No, we're trying to be like the Lord. So although on this earth we're not going to reach that because we can't be perfect, but we're striving to be more like the Lord, and he is perfect. So although like there's grace for that, and the Lord has so much grace, so we're not going to reach perfection while on this earth, but we're striving to be more like the Lord. And so it's like, that's not just be good and we're going to church and we're kind of loving others and whatever. It's like continually trying to be more and more like the Lord, which is going to involve like denying your earthly desires.
And I want to say also, this is not about like just doing good works and like just trying to be the perfect person. I don't want to say that, but for us it's been more of like a heart posture of like, I want to please the Lord and I want to be more like the Lord and I want him to delight in me. You know what I'm saying? And so if you're feeling convicted, if you're feeling like you're struggling with something, that's what I would encourage you. It's not about like you're doing something like wrong. It's not about like you're like not like you're not doing good works or whatever, like, because your works can't save you. I want to get that very clear.
That's so important. your works don't save you.
You can never like do enough good, like you can never be perfect enough, like quote unquote, because...
And it's not like I'm denying my temptations because I think I'm more likely to get into heaven or to be on God's good side. No, it's because I want to know the Lord more and I want to have a deeper relationship with him. And there's many things that are distractions, even as Miranda was saying, like they're not necessarily bad things in of themselves. But when you put too much of an emphasis on them and let them distract you from the Lord, then that's when they can become bad. And so it's like it's not about my good works of denying this and like doing this well and whatever. It's like what is helping you grow closer to the Lord and what's not helping you, and like and as you said, heart posture, like having a desire to want to be in a closer relationship with the Lord.
So I think like just kind of like as a final thing, like the biggest thing I would say is just heart posture. Just if you can see kind of the thing that's changed me is just having my heart aligned with the Word of God and just wanting to be more like him for like heart's sake, not because I have to, not like as a chore. Not I have to give this up and it's like and sometimes it does feel hard, right?
And you can pray to help the Lord change your heart posture so you have more of a desire.
But I would say the biggest encouragement is just showing like how can we get our hearts more aligned with him and how can we please him. That's our biggest desire, I would say. And I think just it goes back to fixing our eyes on Christ. How can we be more like him? How is he gonna how to strive to be more like him, and how to stop doing these things that we're called to do is just focusing on him, which is kind of the opposite of what Lot's wife did. She kind of looked the other way, and so I think it's just a good lesson for us We took a kind of modern take on it with the whole music convictions. There's many things you could read into this about, but I think the biggest thing is just fixing our eyes on the Lord. Yeah. All right, well, that concludes our episode for today. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this has helped you, and we will see you guys next time for the next episode.
Yeah. All right, bye.